Hi everyone, this is Ravi. Welcome to TRICENTIS Tosca Advanced Training. So this is our lesson 23 in terms of overall TRICENTIS Tosca latest version 16 training, and this is lesson 8 in terms of advanced TRICENTIS Tosca training. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how can we use and implement the dynamic ID by using TRICENTIS Tosca, and also how can we use and implement explicit name by using TRICENTIS Tosca. So I'm going to give you a complex scenario and I'm going to teach you how to automate that particular complex scenario where I have to use the dynamic ID and explicit name to complete the automation of that particular end-to-end scenario. Okay, please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you. Okay, so first, what is dynamic ID? So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how can you identify when a dynamic ID should be used. And also, I'm going to teach you how to create a dynamic ID in the properties of a particular control. So the dynamic ID is a term for a value of a property on a module attribute that can change during each distinct run. So basically it's an attribute. So let's say you are capturing a control and you'll be identifying the unique properties, right, of that particular control, which needs to be used for a Tosca to identify that particular control uniquely. Okay, so now you're going to add an additional property called dynamic ID. Okay, so I'm going to teach you shortly how can we create this dynamic ID. Okay, and also this can be achieved by using various dynamic expressions in Tosca. So while creating your dynamic ID property, you can achieve the dynamic ID by using a different or various dynamic expressions in Tosca. Okay, so that is our first concept. And then our next concept is explicit name. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how can you set the explicit name configuration parameter on a module attribute, and how to use this explicit name within a test step. So explicit name is a configuration parameter which can be added to your module, and it allows a change in the test step value's name, which reflects technical identification. And explicit name allows Tosca to steer the object using index considering any dynamic changes. So as soon as you use explicit name in the module attributes, you can simply use your index, okay, while defining the test step. So you can utilize the explicit name configuration parameter by going to step that contains module attribute and replacing the name with index number. Okay, so these are all the so definitions or whatever. Okay, so basically understanding explicit name, right? So now let's jump onto the system and see how can we use dynamic ID and the explicit name while automating the real-time scenario. Okay, let's jump onto the system. So this is my Tosca latest version 16. So first let us understand how can we use this dynamic ID and the explicit name options by using Tosca. So first let us understand what scenario do we need to automate, and to automate that particular scenario we would need to use these two options called dynamic ID and explicit names. Okay, so first, so as you all know, this is our web shop where we'll be going to the apparel and shoes, right? and then I'm gonna add blue jeans to the cart. Once I add blue jeans to the cart, I'm gonna agree to the terms and conditions under shopping cart, checkout, right? And then we are gonna place the order. Okay, so this end-to-end automation we already done. I already explained you in many sessions, and in my previous session we also automated a dynamic string, so basically dynamic expressions. Okay, so you can visit my previous session or any previous videos. Okay, so once you complete your order, right? So in previous session, okay, what I explained you, this order number is so and so, right? So this order number keeps changing, and this part of the string is static and the last part of string is dynamic. And then we in the previous session, what we did, we validated this string static, half one part of static string we validated, and the other part which is dynamic we stored into a buffer by using xb concept, right? So I would recommend you guys to visit my previous video to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so then see, we compared this, we validated this string, and we stored this order. So once we store the order, now whatever the buffer called order number, we stored this value in the buffer called order number. Now that buffer we need to use in this particular session. Okay, how? I'm gonna navigate to my profile. Okay, and then here click on orders. So if you see here, it shows you your entire order history. See, if you see here, this is my latest order, correct? And which has the corresponding details. And my previous to previous order is this. And another order is this. So this is how your entire order history is being displayed in this particular page. So now once I place the order, I want to verify if the corresponding order number whatever it showed on the confirmation page will be listed here in the history or not. So in my account under orders, my latest order number should be displayed here. So now how can you verify your latest order is displaying in my account under orders? If you see here, you have a lot of orders here, right? You need to this. And one more thing is, if you place another order, this is going to change now. So now these controls are not uniquely identified. These keep on changing whenever you place a new order, correct? So how can you automate the scenario where I can verify the latest order in my order history? Okay, this is where we need the dynamic ID and the explicit name concept that we need to use while automating your scenario. For that, let's go back to our TRICENTIS Tosca and then navigate to modules. Under modules, navigate to web shop, click on in work, and then additional material. Under additional material, you will find an empty module folder called exercise 27. Okay, here now I need to scan one of the container or div container, because see, this is one div container, this is all one div container, and this is all another div container, and this is all another div container. So now I want to scan these controls. Okay, how? Right click here, click on scan, click on application, and select the application that you would like to scan. Okay, so this is the application. Click on scan, Now select the application that you would like to scan. Click on scan. And here now select first div container. If you see, these are all individual controls, but these individual controls are residing under another container called div. Okay, so now select the div container, and then you need to also select your order number. Done. And I also would like to select order total li, and then I want to select capture the details button. Okay, now go to advanced view, and here if you see here, whatever we captured, right? So if you need to rename them. What is this div container? This is actually your order overview, right? Let's rename this as order overview, and this one is your order number, and this is your order total. So perfect, done. So first place your cursor or click on order overview. If you see here, this order overview property, you need to change the property because inner text is empty, right? Remove inner text, select outer text, but this outer text, because this is my latest order which has order number, but this keeps on changing, right? So now instead of using this static property, you have to use a dynamic ID. So this is what I'm talking about, dynamic ID. Using dynamic ID for a control to identify. So using dynamic ID in the properties of a particular control. Okay, here I'm going to remove entire this text, and then I'm going to put star here. That means this order overview div container is dynamic, and I'm changing the property of outer text by introducing a dynamic expression with star. Okay, now click OK. So now in the same way, go to order total, and this also you need to select your visible inner text or outer text. Let's select outer text, and here under outer text you need to change here also. The order total might not be always 18, right? I want to convert this to a dynamic ID by removing the dynamic portion and by introducing dynamic expression. Click OK. And if you see here, dynamic overview is not uniquely identified. That's correct, because every div container here has order number, colon, and rest all star. So now this is not uniquely identified, I know. So this can be your first order, this can be your second order, this can be third order, whatever it may be, right? So we are not uniquely identifying this div container. That's what I need, because I'm going to use the explicit name to uniquely identify this div container. So now you all understand how to use your dynamic ID, correct, whenever your property of your control changes. Okay, so now let's rename this demo. Okay, let's rename this as web shop order details and save this. So done. Let's close this. Now if you go back to your modules, now this empty module has this dynamic, sorry, the order details, right? Whatever we captured, the div container, your order number, correct? Let's see the properties. Div container, order number, order total, details. Okay, whatever the properties that we captured, it has everything. Okay, now to automate your test case, we need to introduce an explicit name property, configuration property called explicit name to this div container, because this div container is not uniquely identified now. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to select this container, right click and select your create configuration parameter and name this configuration parameter as explicit name without space, and your explicit name property value should be true. I'm introducing a new configuration parameter called explicit name true. Okay, now save this. Now let's see how can we use this dynamic ID. So how can we use these controls which are having dynamic ID and which is also having explicit name property true. Okay, so now let's go to test cases. So if you remember, we have automated our in the previous session we have automated dynamic comparison scenario, right? So I would recommend you guys to go through that particular video before you watch this session, because I'm gonna use the same test case whatever we automated in my previous session. Okay, go to the same test case and expand your process. Under process there is a folder called check order. Okay, you need to click on this check order, and here now you need to call the module that just now we added, this one, right? Web shop order details. So now I'm gonna insert Control T, add test step. Okay, I'm gonna add test step order details. I'm gonna add the latest module, whatever we captured, whatever we scanned. Select that, and here now, because we used explicit name in the configuration parameter for this particular control, it's now our turn to use your index. Because this particular container has an explicit name, you can directly specify the index. Okay, I am naming that particular module, test case module, as #1. That means it's gonna refer your first container. If I specify this as #2, it's gonna refer your second div container. So because the latest order will be on the top, I want to specify this as 1 and verify. What I'm going to verify? I'm going to verify the inner text will have order number. Copy this. Inner text, order number, colon, space. So whatever the buffer that we used to store the confirmation number in my previous session. So as I told you, you have to visit my previous session where we have stored the dynamic portion of your confirmation number. Okay, I'm gonna call the same number here, same buffer. See, this is the order number. Okay, and then star, because see, this container will have your order number and the order number that is displayed on screen once you place the order, and rest of the text. So that's why I'm using dynamic expression here. Okay, order number, colon, space, your order number that you stored, and dynamic expression. So that's it. So now save this, and here let's run this. Before you run this particular test case, you need to log out and close the web browser and right click here. Now, so you understand, right? We have used the dynamic ID property while capturing these controls for some of the controls, correct? And then we used explicit name in the test case attribute for that particular control, okay, as an index. Okay, now right click on the test case and run in the Scratchbook. So it should open your demo web shop, and then it is going to log in, provides the username password, go to apparels and shoes, and it is placing an order of blue jeans, 25 items, go to shopping cart, now checkout. It's performing the checkout process. So once it checks out, once you get the confirmation number, in the previous session we were storing that confirmation dynamic part of your string in buffer, which is your order number, and then see it stores that order number. See it's stored now, order number and stored. Go to profile, go to orders. Now it's going to verify your first order has that particular order number or not. So it's successful now. So if you go to your test results, so if you see the test results, your web shop order details, see it used your index and it verified the first container. See, verification was successful. Expression, order number, and the actual value and your expected value as both are same, right? So everything is successful, there is no failure. Okay, hope you all understand how to use your dynamic ID while scanning the controls, and then how can you insert explicit name to the control called div overview. And I'm going to use this module in the test case, and I'm going to specify index number itself directly to your in the test case, directly to the test step itself. I'm specifying that number, index number, so that it refers to the corresponding container. Okay, hope you all understand. If you have any queries, leave your queries in the comment box. I'll try to respond to your queries. Thank you. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you.